Welcome back to part 2, where we're going to be taking a look at how we can light and texture our cool intro design here. So let's kind of carry on from where we left off. We've got 2 lights here, and let's just maybe position these a little bit better. We want kind of like a nice rim light going on from each side, and it helps to keep rendering out there. Let's bring this one forward slightly, and we'll increase the radius. Push it over here a little bit, and we'll copy it again, Control C, Control V, and we can drag this one in the middle, and again increase the radius quite a bit. This is going to be our overall light here. So if we render this out, it's starting to have its look. Cool, so let's go ahead and get up closer, and let's start actually texturing each individual layer of our text. So let's start with this front text. Let's double click to make a new texture, and let's apply it to our face. And actually, let's highlight these and do Alt G, and we can put it into a new group, and we'll just call this main text. And actually, these lights as well, we can do Alt G, and we just call this environment. Cool, and we'll rename this to our subtext. Let's go down to our main text on our face here. So let's actually go back to our original video here, and we can have a look at the texture that I used originally. Probably around here. You see we get these nice sort of ringed circular pattern across the whole thing, and it's quite dirty and grungy, quite nice and reflective. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's in our material here. So let's go to our color here and our texture. Let's do the little drop down, and we'll just go to surfaces and tiles there. And you'll see that's just going to bring up some weird funky tiles. Under our pattern, we can change this to circles 3. Circles 1 and 2, you'll see these are linear and they're quite straight. And then these are offset, and then circles 3, there's actually a separate color as well. So we could probably get away with circles 2 actually. And for our color, we'll go under here, our tiles color 1. Let's go ahead and make a more of a, let's go for a greeny color one. Or actually, let's do red. Let's do red. So we'll click on this tile color here, and we'll kind of choose some nice vivid colors. And we can make this last one black. The grout color is just the in-between color that we have. So we can make that nice and dark. Let's just adjust this one a little bit more. Cool, so this is more the look that we're getting here now. And we'll just quickly render that out. So not looking too great at the minute. Let's go back into our texture. And our color, we can play around with the width of this. So let's go quite large, maybe about 15. And you see that's just the space in between. If we put this right down, there's no space. And we put it right up, you can barely see them. So we'll go for around 15%. Bevel width we can also play around. Let's do around 20%. Cool. And let's do our overall scale. Let's maybe push this down a little bit to about 70, just so we get some more tiles in there. We'll zoom out. Let's do 60. Cool, that's looking a little bit nicer. So what we can do is in our texture, let's just copy this channel and put it into our luminance. We'll check that on, and under our texture, let's do paste channel. And you see now that's just going to be a lot brighter there. Now to get this actual bumpy 3D effect, what we need to do is go to our bump, and we'll turn that on. And we can also paste in that channel again. And let's see, increase that up a little bit. And you see now it's starting to actually get some highlights on the outside of those. Now one thing I've noticed here is that our UV mapping isn't actually correct, as you can see on the side there. So we can select our texture, and on the production, let's just set to maybe flat. Flat might work, or let's try cubic. It's not looking too bad. if we go back into our texture, let's increase the number of tiles. So our global scale, we'll just set that down to maybe 30. And remember, you have to change it in each channel now. So we'll go back to the bump, we'll change this to 30. And also our luminance, we'll change, our color, we'll change that to 30. Great. Have a quick render out. That's what we're getting at the minute. That's looking quite cool. And we can get up really nice and close here, get some cool detail going on. Just like that. Pretty cool. I'm not liking how dark it is in between, so let's go back to our color, or actually our luminance channel on our tiles and the grout color. Let's actually brighten this up a little bit. Something like that, we'll render it out. There we go, just so it's a little bit brighter in between. Something like that. That's looking a little bit better. Let's maybe darken it down a touch. Cool. I'm liking the look of that. Perfect. Right, let's move on to the next one. So our next layer, let's turn on our lines, is our fill. So what we can do, double click and make a new material. We'll drag that onto our fill. And in our original comp here, this is the outline here. And actually there wasn't much texture on it. There was just a nice gradient to fill in the gaps. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's double click on this. We'll check on our luminance. And we'll do a new texture. Let's add a gradient. We'll click on our gradient. And let's change it to a circular. And we can just match up those dark red colors. We'll choose red, darken that down. Cool. So if we render that out quickly now, you'll see, and it's just starting to affect these side bits here. Now one thing I'm noticing is that that's quite bright, so we can click on this and we can just turn off our color. And there we go, that's looking a lot better. Remember to keep rendering it out just so you can see what you're getting. And this is starting to kind of come together now. Just quickly render that out again. Cool, not looking too bad. Move on to the next line, let's go to our edge, which is this outer line here. We'll double click for a new material, drag us onto our edge. And in our original example here, we've got this nice metal concrete kind of texture to just to go with that other pattern there. So let's go ahead and do that. One thing I recommend doing is getting some textures online. What I did is literally just search for metal texture on Google, and I found this really nice one here. There's plenty to choose from, make sure you're able to use it. So in Cinema, let's use that texture. Let's go to our color, and we'll click on our texture. And I've just got it saved in here. And let's not do that for now. But that's just going to add that texture on. And I'm not sure if you can see it at the minute, but as you can tell, it's all stretched around the thing because it's not actually correctly mapped. So we can change that again to flat. Or maybe let's try something else. Let's try spatial. Or cubic, I think works quite nicely. Let's render that out. Yeah, cubic will work pretty good. We'll turn on seamless as well, just so we're not getting any edges in there. Take a quick look over here. Cool. That's looking quite nice. Sweet, so let's add some more detail. Let's double click on our metal texture, and we can actually rename this. Let's just call this metal. And we can actually create a normal map. So let's tick on our normal, and under texture, let's bring in that same texture. So we can actually double click on that, and we'll hit no. And you'll see that's actually not going to work correctly for the minute if we render that out. That's looking really crazy. So let's not do that. Let's on the little drop down, we'll change it to effects, and we can change a normalizer. We'll add that on there. We'll click into our normalizer, and if you load in that texture there, you see it's actually going to create a normal map from our image. And when we render that out, you're just getting these nice highlights and some depth. And we can also turn on our bump, and we'll copy in our cool metal texture there. On our bump, let's play around with the black and white points, just so we get a really nice high contrast image, and you'll see that's actually going to affect it more when we're getting close here. Let's render this out. So that's actually looking quite harsh at the minute. Let's turn that down. We'll re-render. And on our normal, let's turn this down a little bit as well. Cool, so now we're just getting some really nice metal grunge and detail added onto our text there. Sweet. Let's finally quickly take a look at our last layer here. Create a new material, drag that on top of the outline. And for this one, let's go ahead and create maybe like a neon sort of look. I think that would look quite nice. So we can turn off our color and reflectance and turn on our luminance. And let's make a really bright orange red kind of color. Set the brightness to about 200. I'm not sure how this is going to look, but let's zoom in here. And on our outline, let's turn the depth down. And go to our caps, and we can also turn our caps down there. Maybe 2.4. Whoops, not like that. 2.4. I'm going to bring this to the front. So now we're getting this actual, maybe like a red neon strip along the outside of it, which is quite nice. So that's looking pretty cool. I like that. We'll do one from here. Nice. For our subtext, let's add another one. We can rename it subtext. Drag that on there. And this is going to be a very quick. We'll just do luminance. We'll turn everything else off, and on texture, we can just add a gradient. And we'll change it to a V gradient there, just so we're getting some darker colors at the bottom. Let's maybe make that a little bit brighter. Cool. Very nice indeed. Let's actually add some caps to this as well. So we can go to our subtext and caps. We'll change it to fillet cap on both. And make sure you check constrain just to keep it the same size. And now actually, we can change this to 0.4 and 0.4, just so we get some nice sort of outline going on the text there. So that's looking pretty cool. Not bad. Let's go ahead and save this. Make sure to save your work. Let's actually go ahead and quickly save this as well, just so we're not going to lose it. And let's start adding some little tweaks to it. So we need some nice reflections, as in the original example here. You see we've got this nice sort of highlight across our whole text and across this subtext as well. So we want to try and recreate that. So let's go back into here, and on our face texture, we can turn on our reflectance, which it already is, and let's add a GGX. And if you render this out, you can see straight away there's nothing to reflect, so it's going to be quite dark. So let's go ahead and turn our layer 1 down. And under our roughness, let's bring in that metal texture again, and we'll hit no. And we'll click on the texture. And again, let's try and make this quite a nice contrasted black and white image there. Now by adding a texture into the roughness channel, anything that's black, I believe, is smooth, and anything that's white is completely rough. So you kind of get that variation in there as well. And you'll see this is starting to look a little bit better. So we'll increase that up. Cool, let's zoom in here, see what we're getting. So we've got some nice detail going on. Cool. Let's add a nice highlight. We can go ahead and add a disk. And the orientation, let's change it to Z. We'll bring it forward, push it up. We can turn the rotation segments down to maybe about 15 and this segment to about 0. And let's just make that editable by hitting C, and then we can play around with the scale of it independently. So let's drag that out there, and we'll just position it over here, just so we're getting this nice sweep over our text, and we'll add a new material for it. And this is just going to be a plain white luminance. We'll start it off on 100% just to see. So that's what we're getting. Let's right click on this and we'll add a Cinema4D tag, compositing tag, and let's turn off scene by camera and also scene by AI. And you can also turn off the shadow options as well, just so it's not going to be affecting anything other than the reflectors. So let's turn it off for the editor right there with that top button there. We'll render it out. And you'll see now we're getting this nice sort of sweep across our text. Now I find it helps if you do Alt-R, you can turn on the interactive render region, and you can kind of tweak different values and you'll get a live update. So under our reflectance of our face, let's turn down the roughness, maybe about 5% there, and we'll increase the reflectivity, just so you can start to see it come through there, just so it looks a bit nicer. And let's tone on our bump, we'll do about 30% or 20%. Cool. Now at this stage you really do just want to sort of go in and tweak it just until it starts to look nice. So that's not looking too bad. Let's render that out. You'll see we're getting this nice highlight now across the whole text. Cool, so that's looking pretty good so far, not too bad. Cool. Let's go and actually develop our lights a little bit as well. So under our environment, we'll select our lights. We can actually maybe start toning these lights a little bit red, and we'll play around with the fall off, just to try and complement that text there. So you see we're getting this nice red highlight. Maybe increase that to a bit darker. Our light 2, which is our overall light. Let's do like a faint red there. It's not looking too bad. Let's bring this in a little bit. And play with our intensity there. You'll see we're getting this nice highlight over here. Maybe tone that back down to 250. But basically you could play around with this for hours and hours trying to get it right, but I want to keep these tutorials nice and quick. So let's just get something like that. Make sure you're covering your whole text, and that's not looking too bad. We have one more look at this here. And let's actually have a look with our ambient occlusion turned on. So let's go to our render options and we'll go to our ambient occlusion tab and we'll just turn on apply to project. And if we render that out now, the ambient occlusion is actually being applied there. Cool, so we're getting our nice highlight going on in our lights, our cool texturing, and it's looking pretty good, not too bad. I'm actually going to turn this a little bit smaller, closer together. And one more render there. Awesome, that's looking really nice. Let's do a lower angle. Cool. Right, I'm liking the look of that. I think texturing, you can say it's done. I know it's very quick, but I did just want to cover the basics in there, so that's looking quite nice. I'm liking that. In part 3, we're going to be taking a look at how we can start animating and rendering it out, so stay tuned for that. Bye guys.